Game Week 19 is here, and after an underwhelming Game Week 18, there may be rotation chaos in the midweek game week. Don't worry, we've got you covered with all of the stats, all of the information in this week's Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid. This video is split into two parts. The first half will be looking at players you may already have in your team and which ones you should keep and which ones you should sell. After that, we'll be having a look at players that you don't have and which players you should buy and which you should avoid. Players will be tier listed with the best players at the top and the worst ones at the bottom. Welcome to FPL Mate. My name is Dan. Today is actually my birthday, but the fun doesn't stop, and FPL waits for nobody. Not Christmas, not birthdays. FPL just keeps on going, and we love it, don't we, guys? So yeah, this video is actually being recorded 8 games into game week 18. So we don't have the data today for either Spurs, Crystal Palace, Leeds, and Sunderland for game week 18. We've got a lot of other stuff today, and I appreciate we would like to have all of the information, all of the data ahead of each game weeks, but so many game weeks at the moment, guys. We're trying our best out here. So let's start off with the forwards for us today, and we have got Bowen at the top of the keep list, and I think he is going to be a really nice keep, actually, because as you're soon going to see in this video, there's a lot of players who are going to be rotation risk, particularly for game week 19, and I have tried to mark some of those players who I think are at risk of being rotated in this game week, in this midweek game week. Bowen is not going to be one of those guys, and I think this is a really nice jumping on point. Interestingly, over the last 6-ish game weeks, Brighton have actually been one of the weakest defenses in the league, conceding so many chances, and after that, you got Wolves, you got Forest, you got Spurs. There's a lot of good fixtures coming up for West Ham, and if you're looking for security of minutes, Bowen definitely ticks that box, and he's taking plenty of shots as well. 17 shots, 16 in the box. This is among the highest in the Premier League right now over this 6-game week kind of sample size that we use in these videos. Calvert-Lewin, also another player to keep. Difficult to talk too much about him as he hasn't played in game week 18, but so far so good in previous game weeks, it has to be said, and he's putting up some of the best underlying data of any player in the game. 4.09 XG in just 4 starts. Absolutely wacky stuff. Penalty taker against this Liverpool team who seem to concede 1 goal per game. Of course, it's going to be Calvert-Lewin who breaks the hearts of all of those Virgil owners. You can just see it happening already. And Voltemada is the first of many forwards who I do think have a rotation problem, specifically in game week 19. Because I do think there is a significant chance that Wissa is going to start ahead of Voltemada, particularly as I don't think he had a great game in game week 18 against Manchester United. But that said, 9 shots, 2.23 XG in 6 game weeks. It is not amazing, but I guess it's not terrible either. And most importantly, the next fixture is Burnley, and it's very, very difficult to sell a player ahead of this Burnley fixture, even though it does look like there is some rotation risk. That chance that Voltemada plays, even if it's 50-50, it's just such a nice fixture to have if you are a forward. Into the monitor section, Mark Gu is going to go here if you're rocking with a 2-forward formation, with the third forward being Mark Gu. I would pretty much keep it that way, to be honest, right now. Not too many forwards standing out at the moment, particularly with all of the rotation risk among several forwards. So I think Mark Gu is going to be a keep, and maybe bulk up that fifth midfielder slot, 4th and 5th defender slots, and look to kind of play in those areas, I think, unless you are, for some reason, desperate to go a 3-forward formation. I don't think many people will be doing that. Thiago is also going to be on the monitor section. I think this is a game week where he could potentially be rotated, so there is some concern there. I think his fixtures are maybe a little weaker than someone like Voltemada's, for example, but there are still a lot of nice fixtures in here. Spurs and Sunderland, both at home in 19 and 21, are still very decent fixtures, and if you are feeling more confident than I am in Thiago's minutes, then he's certainly going to be a player you could consider keeping. Of course, we know his underlying data is pretty poor, particularly if you exclude the penalties, but look, he's a starting striker with some okay fixtures. There are worse players to keep in your team. Joao Pedro is going to go in the monitor section as well. I think this Bournemouth game, he is at some risk of rotation with Delap, Liam Delap. I almost said Rory Delap, but Liam Delap, his son, is available. So I do like this fixture against Bournemouth, but I wouldn't really be kind of taking too much from Joao Pedro's goal in game week 18, because it kind of just came off his backside, and I don't think he knew much about it. It was a Reece James corner, kind of bounced off like the back of Joao Pedro's leg, found its way into the back of the net. And I think that has kind of skewed the data a little bit. That's why data can't tell you absolutely everything in FPL. So good fixture, poor data outside of the backside goal, and possibly some rougher fixtures after Bournemouth as well. Rotation risk, I don't know. I just would be thinking about maybe selling him. Mateta as well, going to be rotation risk in any midweek fixture. We know Mateta has played far too many minutes this season and is being subbed off early, etc., etc. Fixtures are pretty average, I think, looking through these games. So therefore, he is going to be a very low monitor. But in the sell category, I'm afraid Gyökeres has got to go in here. I think he is going to be rotation risk after another pretty weak performance in game week 18. He was really struggling to get going. A lot of his XG has come from that penalty in game week 17, so I wouldn't look at that too strongly. And Aston Villa up next. We got teams like Liverpool and Forest away coming up as well. The fixtures aren't perfect for him, but I think it's mostly the rotation because, you know, the fixtures are kind of average. For a team like Arsenal, you think most of the players will do very well, even in average fixtures. Unfortunately, I don't know if Gyökeres is going to be one of those guys, particularly at that price tag. Welbeck is still a little bit rotation risk. I don't think he is fully fit yet. And I just think with these fixtures so close to one another, it is just very risky to go for Welbeck right now or just have him in your squad. He seems to be a perpetual headache in your team at the moment. So, yeah, again, another player to sell. And Richarlison, rotation risk. Brentford away, I think, is a tough fixture. So maybe a good jumping off point as well, particularly if we're not expecting him to necessarily start in this game week. On to midfielders. Foden, definitely a keep. I know he has blanked in the last 2 game weeks, but it's not been without his opportunities. Could have easily had an assist in game week 17, came incredibly close to a goal in game week 18 as well. Brilliant bit of footwork, taking a shot, and it was a great save from the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper John in the end. So I actually think Foden maybe could have got a bit more in the last couple of game weeks. He's still among the top midfielders for underlying numbers in recent game weeks, and Sunderland away I think is a good enough fixture to keep him around for a little longer. Chelsea at home, Brighton at home, even Man United away. All of these fixtures, I'd be more than happy to have and play Foden in. Still some good fixtures to come from City. Saka is also going to be a keep. I still think he is one of the most dangerous players in the Premier League right now, whether that is creatively or whether it is creating, whether he's actually scoring goals himself, which hasn't happened too often recently. But as you can see by these numbers, guys, 2.1 XG, 21 shots, 3 big chances. Like, this is quite, these are quite big numbers, actually. Like, compared to a lot of the other midfielders you're going to see on this list. Foden, Saka, these are really nice, high underlying numbers, high XG, high XA, high volume of shots. And these are the kind of things we look for when we're trying to pick out our FPL assets. Plus, you know, I watch Arsenal. I do think Saka is very good, and I do think he always looks dangerous. I guess the only way you would maybe sell Saka is if you were desperate to use the money for something else, but I think Saka is a reasonably good way of spending that money. Maybe some of you guys will disagree. Wilson, if you do have him in your team, another assist in game week 18, despite the blank in 17. But I still think I'll keep him around. The fixtures are a little tougher here, and Wilson is certainly no longer a buy. But for a fairly cheap midfielder who seems really good for minutes at the moment, who is doing fairly well. Yes, he is overperforming massively, but his underlying numbers are not too bad. I think he's worth keeping around, and I think you are going to find a little bit of use for him. Even if you do feel like benching him in next game week, this game week, he's going to find some use for him, I think. Not worth a sell. Semenyo, I would monitor. The fixtures are rough, and if you do need to move to another midfielder that you really like, I think Semenyo can definitely be sacrificed for that purpose, with Chelsea away and Arsenal at home in the next 2. The big problem with Semenyo is we are expecting him to leave Bournemouth in the very near future, and that may kill him off as an FPL asset whilst he integrates to his new club, which we think is going to be Manchester City. Is he even going to be nailed on at Manchester City? I don't know. It's going to be a really rough one, but I think we'll kind of talk more about that as that time comes. But for right now, yeah, definitely a player you could sell, but not a player you have to sell necessarily. We've got Bruno G here as well as a potential sell. He is pretty poor on those underlying numbers. The DEFCONs have pretty much dried up as well, and he's kind of returning to the kind of points we kind of expect from him, to be honest. He was massively overperforming before, and now things are kind of starting to balance out a little bit. But that said, Burnley away up next. You never know what's going to happen in a fixture like this. And I think there is going to be some temptation to keep, you know, a Newcastle asset who is on some set pieces, is good for minutes, who has some involvement in the attack in such a good fixture. You know, there's going to be some temptation to keep him there. And that's why he is here. One note, guys, because obviously there's a few players with the yellow card icon next to them. So these players are all on 4 yellow cards. And basically, this is the situation. They need to survive one more game. If these players who have the yellow card icon can survive game week 19 without getting a yellow card, they are going to be in the clear all of a sudden. So it's going to be great. So yes, guys, if these players get a yellow card, they're going to be suspended for game week 20. But if they can get through game week 19 without a yellow card, then the threshold changes and they are no longer in danger of getting suspended through yellow card accumulation. So just a quick recap on that one. Minter, super difficult one. His underlying numbers are terrible, but having had his rest in game week 18, I think he's pretty good for minutes now over the next 2 game weeks. And the next 2 game weeks are pretty much 2 of the best fixtures you can ask for as an attacker. We've got West Ham and Burnley in the next 2, and even Bournemouth in 22 as well. There's some really nice fixtures in here, but is Minter the guy who is going to be capitalising on these nice fixtures, or will it be one of the other Brighton attackers? Really difficult to tell right now, so he's going to be a low monitor here. Enzo is going to come into the monitor section as well here. Some rotation risk. So, for example, if Gusto goes to right back, it could be a midfield of Caicedo and James. And if that is the case, particularly if Palmer is playing ahead of the midfielders, then maybe Enzo has some risk there. But at the same time, I kind of think Enzo will probably play this game week. It's so tough to tell. Bournemouth at home is a nice fixture, and although Enzo is continuing to fail to get attacking returns, his underlying data continues to be pretty good. So he is getting the chances to score. He is getting the chances to create, or at least his teammates are not finishing off the chances he's creating. So there is still some interest there for me. But going into the sell category, Neto is going to go in here because he is a little bit more expensive. His numbers are a little bit weaker. So even though he has been getting the attacking returns, I think, well, certainly more than Enzo. Just this pretty poor data, the rotation risk that he has, probably more so than Enzo right now, and the fact that after Bournemouth, the fixtures are maybe not as strong. I think I'll be more willing to sell someone like Neto at 7.3 million. Eza continues to be this super rotation risk guy, really struggling for minutes at the moment, and Erdegaard is just playing well at the moment, and it is keeping Eza out of the team. So excellent for Arsenal to have that depth, but Eza is just really not working as an FPL asset right now. And with Grealish ill, maybe he was hungover over Christmas, but he could be back for game week 19 potentially. I don't know if I take that risk, to be honest, considering that Grealish's best fixture, which was probably last week against Burnley, is out the way now. It's probably not worth holding on to him all the way to game week 21 for that Wolves at home fixture, possibly just to get rid. In the keep section, we've got O'Reilly at the top. Sunderland, I think, is a good fixture for a defender. Sunderland do typically struggle to generate chances. And I would keep these Crystal Palace boys as well in the defence position. Fulham at home. This is a fixture against a Fulham team that do continue to struggle to create too much. Just that one goal against West Ham probably tells you a bit of a story there. Richards, by the way, obviously he is still going to be flagged. I have no idea if he's playing on Monday or not at time of recording, but he did have a cut. He did require stitches, but given that he's not going to play until I believe it's the 1st of January now, could even be the 2nd, I think he's going to be fine, and I think he's going to be ready to go. So it's just a cut that needed to heal over. There is a small chance he plays in game week 18. I don't think it will happen. You guys will perhaps know by the time you watch this video, but I think he's got a really good chance of playing in game week 19, and I think he's worth holding on to for that fixture. And as always, guys, Richards is a DEFCON beast. 55 defensive contributions in 10 game weeks. In 5 game weeks. That is really strong. In the monitor section, we're going to have Virgil first of all. At 5.9 million, we know that he's probably not great value for money. Liverpool continue just to concede these random goals, individual errors, set pieces, whatever. So even though Liverpool actually tracking with some of the best underlying defensive data in the Premier League over the past 6 game weeks, actually Virgil has failed to benefit from that really at all. But you could say with Leeds, Fulham and Burnley in the next 4, there is maybe some opportunity for him to spike that 17-pointer, clean sheet, DEFCON and a goal. But how long are you going to wait around for it to happen? Because so far, it is just not coming. Estev is going to go in the monitor section as well with his continual injury issues that he has right now. But at 3.9 million, being a real strong DEFCON defender as well as a backup on your bench, I don't think there's too much of a strong reason to sell him unless you are kind of doing a restructure to where you're putting your budget. Timber is going to be one to monitor. It's really depending on his injury status, to be honest. A very difficult player to talk about right now. If he is going to be available, you know, maybe there's still an argument to sell him. 6.5 million, you can find slightly better value for money even within the Arsenal defense. Senesi is going to go as a low monitor. Next fixtures are just very, very weak for him. So even though probably going to get defensive contributions in every game, if he's conceding enough goals, then, you know, that's not going to matter too much, is it? Then into the sell category. Van de Ven, 4 yellow cards right now. Could even get his 5th before game week 18 is over because he is still yet to play at time of recording. The fixtures are actually not that bad for Spurs, but like Van de Ven has been a perpetual disappointment in FPL ever since he scored his brace all those weeks ago. Kukure is still going to be a sell, 6.2 million. It's just too expensive to be spending on a Chelsea defender who does not DEFCON. Chalobah, by the way, if you have him, I would be much more likely to keep Chalobah than I would Kukurea, even though Chelsea are actually conceding a lot of chances and don't have the best fixtures over the next 2. I think, you know, Chalobah is more interesting to me, but Kukurea, too much money, no attacking threat, no DEFCON, no bonus points. What are you getting from him for all that money? Not very much, unfortunately. And Matty Cash picks up his 5th yellow card, meaning he is going to be unavailable for the Arsenal away game, which is actually an interesting point that I actually intended on bringing up when we were speaking about Saka. I don't actually know who's going to be playing at right back when Arsenal face Aston Villa in game week 19. So who knows who Saka is going to be faced up against. Could be a nice opportunity for Saka in what is ordinarily a pretty difficult game against Aston Villa. So yes, Cash out, 5th yellow card. To be honest, I don't think he was a very good pick to begin with, certainly at the point where people were buying him. So if you do still have him in your squad, I think, you know, this is maybe your sign to remove him and probably at this kind of price, look for a DEFCON defender or maybe someone with maybe slightly higher clean sheet odds with more attacking threat as well. And at this halfway point of the video, guys, I do ask you to kindly like the video if you don't mind. I mean, it is my birthday. Come on, you can give a like on the video on a man's birthday. Why not? And yeah, feel free to hype the video as well. And please do subscribe. Our goal this season is to hit 250,000 subscribers. And if you can help me to do that, that would be massively appreciated. About 40% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed. So what are you waiting for? Get involved, guys. It does help out the channel and it helps you to see the FPL Mate videos a little bit more frequently in your algorithm. All right, so let's look at the buys up next. We'll stay in the forward section first of all. And here we see Erling Haaland in his natural habitat at the top of the buy section. Yeah, as always, Haaland is going to be our #1 buy, and I think outside of that, there are a couple options for you guys. So Ekitike, first of all, thought he did look dangerous in game week 18. Maybe a little unfortunate to only come away with an assist because he did hit the hit the woodwork, and he was generally very lively, which is what we like to see. Still got some good fixtures to come up for Liverpool, and Ekitike we are thinking is mostly going to be nailed over the next couple of months whilst we wait for Isak to return from injury. Although it should be said that there has been speak about Chiesa potentially playing at striker if Ekitike is overworked at any moment. But I still think Ekitike looks like a very strong buy. Jared Bowen is your safety pick, you know, not going to get rotated over these games. We know he's taking a lot of shots. We know his underlying data is, you know, maybe not incredible for XG, but we know he's taking a lot of shots. Very similar to players like Haaland and Ekitike in terms of shot volume and shots in the box, which, you know, these are positive traits. And the fixtures are very good as well for him. In the monitor section, if you're going cheap, you could go for Calvert-Lewin here, to be honest, but it's not exactly the best jumping on point for him with Liverpool, United and Newcastle in the next 3. Even Fulham at home, it's an okay fixture, but Fulham have been keeping some clean sheets recently. Next up, we have got Nick Voltemada, who would be a super risky buy because, as I was saying earlier in the video, I do think there is significant risk of Yohan Wissa starting ahead of Voltemada in game week 19, given that it is a midweek fixture, and we've already seen Wissa come in and play a midweek fixture since his return from injury, and that did bench Voltemada. So I think you're taking a big risk if you go for Voltamata, but look, it's Burnley, right? We know this can pay off if it goes well. Thiago is also going to go in the monitor section here. You could potentially buy him, but there are probably better options right now. Even like Jared Bowen, for example, a little bit more expensive, but I think I prefer to go there. Benjamin Sesko is going to be pretty risky here. There are good fixtures coming up for Manchester United, but at 7.2 million, I'm still not fully convinced that Sesko is nailed on. We saw an early sub, for example, in game week 18, and he is still kind of not really delivering. He has had a rough season when it comes to injuries. I'm just not fully convinced on this one. So he's going to go in the low monitor section because he would be a significant risk if you were to go for him. Joao Pedro is an avoid, some rotation risk against Bournemouth, and after that, I think the fixtures are a little worse for him, so not really worth the risk, to be honest, if you're trying to buy new. Igor Jesus is reasonably popular as a transfer this week. He got an assist in game week 18. The fixtures are kind of a little mixed. We've got Everton at home, but we also got Aston Villa away, Arsenal in a couple of weeks' time as well. We have got West Ham there, I suppose, but I just don't really see it. He's taking a lot of shots, but they are often from a very, very weak areas. And that's kind of backed up by his just one big chance and just 1.05 XG, which is really low for a player who has taken this many shots. And we've got Ollie Watkins at the bottom of the avoid list because, as always, whenever a player, whenever attacker plays against Arsenal in that game week, I always put that player in the void section. Now, don't get me wrong, Arsenal are conceding like 1 goal per game. But if we're trying to play the odds, what are the chances of that one random goal that Arsenal concede, assuming they do concede one random goal, is going to be Watkins. Also, a couple of players going to be missing for Aston Villa this week. Cash, we already mentioned, is going to be suspended. And I believe Camara as well is going to be missing from this game week 19 fixture. So Arsenal have a big opportunity here to do the business against a Aston Villa team that usually do very well against Arsenal. But not worth the risk on Watkins at 8.5 million in his most difficult fixture of the season. Probably worth holding off. Into midfield, and here is where I feel there are actually quite a lot of options, but the options really start after Cunha, because in 5 game weeks, Cunha has taken 28 shots. No player in the Premier League is getting close to these numbers, and that's despite Cunha playing 1 less game than most other players. Absolutely cracker stuff. He is taking shots non-stop. So really, really strong underlying data for Cunha, but not just that. Fantastic fixtures to come as well. Wolves at home up next, followed by Leeds and Burnley. This is just an excellent run of 3 fixtures for a player who is taking an insane amount of shots. These kind of factors are all coming together to create a really nice FPL pick. And even though a lot of people who didn't buy Cunha last week for his blank against Newcastle will probably be feeling pretty pleased about avoiding any Cunha hauls, I wouldn't count your luck for too long because I think Cunha is going to do well here. I think, to be honest, when people were buying Cunha last week, it was mostly because I think people knew they wanted Cunha from game week 19 onwards and were kind of forced into going a little early because of that Bruno injury. But like, if you didn't buy Cunha before, I just think you just got to get on it. Maybe that's just me. He's going to go in the thumbnail for this video because that's how strongly I feel about the Cunha pickup this week. Declan Rice is also going to go in the buy section, by the way. Once again, always finding his way to FPL points. Like this time, well, actually not even the first time. This has happened multiple times for him. He's taken a corner and one of the defenders has scored an own goal from it. Look, listen, this guy is just a man who's just blessed in FPL this season. He is just finding his way to points, defcons, assists, set pieces, corners, whatever it has to be. He will be there. And Foden, I still think, is definitely a potential buy for you guys if you have got a little bit more money to spend. When we look at some of the cheaper options in the midfield, it does get a little dodgier. And I think really we're looking at kind of mid-price up. There are very few cheap midfielders to buy right now. I think, for example, let's go to Sharda in the monitor section, who's a player I really like. And I know he's just scored a hat-trick. And it's going to be like, oh, is this like a knee-jerk? It is not. He is a player I spoke about in game week 18. And actually, I'm totally honest with you guys. I am so gutted I didn't buy him because I was so close to getting him. It was between him and Gordon for game week 18 for me, and I so wish I went for Shard. I'm very frustrated with myself that I didn't. We did speak about that on YouTube. We spoke about that on Twitter as well as my kind of options. But I don't think it's too late to correct that mistake. I still think there's going to be some more opportunities for Sharda, who is just, as we mentioned last week, looking more sharp, more central, more dangerous than Thiago in this Brentford attack right now. And therefore, I would be more than willing to take a punt on him here. So yeah, Sharda still very much an option. Be aware that the majority of his XG did come in game week 18 against Bournemouth. So just be aware of that when you're looking at these numbers. Cherky is going to go in the monitor section, and honestly, he should be higher, but it's just that Pep Roulette rotation risk in these midweek fixtures that kind of prevents me from putting him any higher than a monitor. Because I think if you do go for Cherky, yes, you're going to be picking up a wonderful football player, but you also are picking up a rotation risk player as well. And yeah, if you're happy to take on that risk, and maybe you have different ideas or to me on how significant that risk is, of course, go for it. But he could start against Sunderland in game week 19, but then I feel like with Chelsea in game week 20, just a few days after that, you're again rolling the dice of whether he's going to start or not. So even if he plays against Sunderland, is he going to play against Chelsea? And I don't know, is that probably what you want to have? I guess that's up to you. Florian Wirtz probably have missed the best time to buy him. The best time to buy him was game week 18, but he's got his first goal. That's brilliant stuff for him. His underlying data is, it's okay. This is nothing phenomenal, but he's only just coming into form. So maybe that's kind of why. And Gordon, I'm going to put low monitor here, and I say this as someone who has Gordon in their FPL team. I am very worried about his minutes in game week 19. I did not expect him to play 90 minutes in game week 18, and I think there is a significant chance the reason he played so many minutes in game week 18 is because there is a planned rest for him in game week 19. Because Gordon has been a rotation risk player. He has been a player who usually gets subbed off around the 75 minute mark. So to see him to see him play the full game was very, very rare for him in game week 18 against Manchester United. So some concern there, to be honest. I don't know. Newcastle fans, by the way, if you are a Newcastle fan and you're watching this video, please do leave a comment and give me your opinion, because selfishly, I suppose, I want to know what you think the Gordon situation is. I know not a lot of Newcastle fans are happy with him right now, but do you think he's going to start in game week 19 or not? I really need to know, and I'm sure a lot of other people would love to know as well. But I am putting him low monitor because my interpretation is that he is significant minutes risk in game week 19 specifically. So if you are buying new, there is a huge risk that you're buying a player who's about to get subbed. Maybe keeping him is a different kind of argument. But buying new, not so keen. And I'm going to put Wilson in the avoid category here. I do like him as a keep, but it's not really the time to buy him. You're unlikely to get much use out of him over the next few game weeks with these difficult fixtures. And I think if you're going for a cheaper midfielder, and really there are so few cheap midfielders around right now, I think you just got to go for a DEFCON guy. Go for like an Anderson or a Stack, or go like really cheap to Enzo Lafay at 4.95 million, however much he is right now. I would really just go cheaper at this present moment. I'm going to put Rodgers in the avoid section as well. We just got to get past this Arsenal away fixture, and then I think Rodgers will very much come into the conversation. I think by game week 22, Rodgers is going to be firmly in the buy category, maybe game week 23. But right now, we just need to get past Arsenal away because it's a rubbish fixture. We know that. Semenyo is also going to go in the avoid section just because of the difficult fixtures and the uncertainty around where he is going to be in the upcoming weeks in terms of what club he's going to play for. There is going to be some integration into the new club that he ends up in. Maybe that could even happen within the next week because we are so close to January. It remains to be seen. But guys, just a very, very difficult time to buy Semenyo, I suppose. On to defenders, and Dorgu is going top of the list. And I know this looks like a knee-jerk, but we have new information on Dorgu, and that is that he's playing as a right winger for Manchester United. So to see Dorgu not only score a wonderful goal, but play as in an attacking position, like on the wing, is really, really nice. We've got some good fixtures for Manchester United. Wolves, Leeds, Burnley in the next three. So you're going to have clean sheet opportunities, but he's also an attacker. And he's also, this is probably the biggest point, 4.1 million. So whilst Mbermo is out at AFCON, whilst Bruno is injured, I don't know how, Bruno probably doesn't impact it too much. But yeah, if it's working, if Manchester United coming off the back of a win against Newcastle, if it's working, Dorgu playing in that position, scoring a goal, having some opportunities to get involved in the goals, and with great fixtures at the cheap price, like, there's just so much going for him right now. So it sounds like a knee jerk after his haul in game week 18. But actually, I think there are so many positives around this pick that we have to throw him in the buy category. And, it's nice to find a nice cheap defender as well, because I feel like we've been lacking them a little bit recently. Malik Chow is also going to go in the buy category for us. He's got some nice fixtures coming up, actually. Newcastle in general, we know have very, very, very sweet fixtures. Burnley is a good fixture. Crystal Palace, Leeds, and Wolves, all good fixtures for a defender. And Chow has actually been one of the strongest players in the league recently for defensive contributions as well. Does have a little bit of aerial threat from those set pieces. So overall, I do think there's going to be some nice opportunities for him if you want to go the DEFCON route. If you want to go for someone with maybe slightly more open play attacking threat, Lewis Hall is a similar price, 5.2 million, and definitely one to consider as well. So I've only put Malik Chow in the video, if you like, but really Chow or Hall, depending on your preference. Do you prefer DEFCON players, like the reliable players, or do you prefer, maybe some more open play threat with actually some set pieces as well, some corners? Lewis Hall takes the corners from the right-hand side. Then both of them are great options for this run of fixtures. I definitely would consider. And interestingly, by the way, guys, Newcastle putting up some of the best underlying defensive data of any Premier League in the last 6 game weeks. And it seems crazy because they haven't kept any clean sheets. But actually, very few teams, I think even like Arsenal, for example, Arsenal are the only team who have conceded fewer chances, fewer XG than Newcastle over recent game weeks, which is absolutely crazy. Over the last 6, I mean. Tarkowski also going to go in the buy section. Still plenty of good fixtures coming up for the Everton boys. So I'll definitely be willing to go there if you are looking for a Everton defender. I think Tarkowski pretty sweet in the long term. He is on 4 yellow cards, as is Dorgu. So just a quick note on those guys. But yeah, Tarkowski, very good for DEFCON, nailed on for minutes. Long-term hold. Yeah, pretty nice, even for 5.5. In the monitor section, I'm going to put Gabriel, and I still do think it may be a little bit early to go for him, just because we know that he has just come back from injury. Is he going to be able to start a game immediately in Game Week 19? Played a few minutes in Game Week 18, but is he going to start in Game Week 19? And if he does, is he also going to play again a few days later in Game Week 20? So we are in risky territory for Gabriel, but no doubt a fully fit and ready to go and nailed on Gabriel is the best defender in FPL that you could possibly have. But it may be a little too early. It may be the right time. It may be, but it's difficult for me to say. I don't know. I think I would be, I wouldn't say surprised, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Gabriel was on the bench for one of the next 2 game weeks, is what I'm trying to say here. So just be aware of that one. He could start both. We don't know. Keane is also going to go in the monitor. I think we are getting towards it being a little late to buy Keane. I think the best time to buy him was probably Game Week 18. If you didn't get him in Game Week 18, we are getting closer and closer to possibly Branthwaite replacing him in the starting 11, because probably by the time the Game Week 19 deadline hits, Branthwaite will be in full training for Everton. So that is something to be aware of. Dallo is also going to go in the monitor section. I think, you're probably just going to go for Dorgu, to be honest, out of the 2 players. At Dorgu at a cheaper plot price and playing more advanced. But, Dallo is possibly a player to go for. But I think at 4.4 million, I'm cautious about overhyping Man United defenders too much unless there is something very special going on with them. And I think that is the case with Dorgu. Gavadio wants to monitor. Like, you could maybe get him. He has been scoring FPL points recently. But after Sunderland, we've got Chelsea, Brighton, Man United. For a defender, I don't think these are perfect fixtures. Reece James is going to go in the avoid section, certainly when the fixture schedule is packed. It is crammed. I think this is the worst kind of times to buy Reece James, because this is where he does become rotation risk, and I would be surprised to see him play both of the next 2 games. And to be honest, Bournemouth, Man City, like, these are not great hopping on points for him regardless. So yes, he has been, getting a few attacking returns recently, primarily from set pieces. The fixtures and the rotation risk don't really tempt me in very much. I think Frimpong, having just returned from injury and playing so many minutes in game week 18, is going to be at risk over the coming game weeks. And I think there's a very good chance if Bradley is back and available, that Bradley is going to play some minutes here. So Frimpong's still very much rotation risk. Don't think I'd be willing to go there. And Heaven here as well. I think, you know, after a couple of game weeks, Heaven is going to be back on the bench when Delict is back, when Maguire is back. You know, we said like a few minutes ago, let's not overhype the Manchester United defense too much, because they are still, you know, a team that do concede goals, particularly when they're playing away from home. And of course, we're going to have other players coming back and kind of replacing Heaven in the starting 11 in the near future. So yeah, just probably not a player I'd go for. Spend an extra 0.3, go for Dorgu. You know Dorgu is safe for the next, you know, 4 game weeks perhaps, or at least 3 game weeks where you're going to really benefit from him, I would say. And finally, goalkeepers. If you do have Raya, Donnarumma, these are players I would be looking to keep this game week, even though probably not great value for money. They do probably tick along quite nicely. You know, every other game week with a clean sheet. It's not too bad. Petrovic is a potential sell because the fixtures are pretty weak and Bournemouth continues to be a pretty poor defense. Sells is kind of rotation risk at the moment, still recovering from an injury, and John is playing pretty well, which may cause some headaches there for Sells owners. In terms of buying a new goalkeeper, I think you either go expensive with Raya or you go cheap with Kelleher. Those are the 2 standout goalkeepers, and to be honest, I'd be maybe more tempted by Kelleher at 1.5 million cheaper than Raya at this present moment. I would look to avoid roughs. It's a bad hopping on point as this Manchester City fixture, and we're going to put Lamans in the avoid section as well. Yes, a clean sheet against Newcastle, but where are all the other clean sheets? And even though the fixtures are not too bad, 5 million for a goalkeeper who, you know, is probably not going to be great in the long term, is probably not where I would want to go with my transfers. I think going for some outfield players for Manchester United, fantastic. You can bring them in now, and you could either bench them or sell them after a few game weeks and just play them in the good game weeks. But for a goalkeeper, things are usually a little bit different. But anyway, guys, I think that is all of the players we need to talk about in today's video. If we missed anyone out, do let me know in the comments section, whatever player you have in mind, and I'll let you know if they are a buy, sell, keep, or an avoid. If you enjoyed, drop me a birthday like and hype. Subscribe, because our aim this season is to get 250,000 subscribers, and I will see you tomorrow for the 100 experts video, which I'm going to be working on throughout today, because fun doesn't stop when it comes to FPL. Thanks guys for watching. Cheers, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye bye.